"Sir, can you be my boyfriend for a few minutes?" she asked, not knowing he was a millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we dive into today's story, could I ask you for a small favor? Please take a second to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss any of our new stories about love, fate, and second chances. It is quick, free, and truly the best way to help us keep creating heartfelt tales that touch the soul. Your support means more than words can say. And one more thing, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city or country in the comments. We love knowing how far these stories travel. Thank you very much. Now, let us get back to our main character. The coffee shop was packed that rainy afternoon in downtown Chicago. Steam fogged the tall glass windows while the smell of espresso drifted through the air. At a corner table, Lina Carter stirred her drink nervously, pretending to scroll on her phone. Her reflection in the window told the truth. She was trying not to cry. Her ex-boyfriend, Derek, had just walked in with a woman wearing diamonds large enough to catch the light from every direction. Lina froze. Her heart pounded. She did not want him to see her alone, broke, still wearing the same cheap coat she bought 2 winters ago. She glanced around in panic. That was when she saw Ethan, a man sitting quietly by the window, reading a newspaper, his black coat neatly folded beside him. He looked calm, collected, maybe in his early 30s. Something about him felt safe. Before she could think twice, she stood up, crossed the room and whispered, her voice trembling, "Sir, can you be my boyfriend for a few minutes?" Ethan lifted his eyes, surprised. Up close, he noticed how her hands shook, how her voice cracked between fear and hope. He had seen that look before, people trying to survive embarrassment. "Excuse me," he asked softly. "Please," Lina said quickly, glancing over her shoulder as Derek's laughter echoed closer. "My ex just walked in. I cannot let him think I am miserable." For a moment, Ethan said nothing. His first instinct was to refuse, but then he saw the desperation in her eyes, the kind that said she had been through enough already. Slowly, he folded the newspaper and smiled faintly. "All right," he said, "but I am terrible at pretending." Lina sat down across from him, trying to act casual. Her heart was racing so fast she could hardly breathe. Derek's voice came from behind her. "Lina? Wow, long time no see." She forced a smile and reached across the table, placing her hand over Ethan's. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice trembling only slightly. Ethan caught on instantly. He turned toward Derek with polite confidence. "Nice to meet you," he said, shaking Derek's hand. "I am Ethan." Derek's smirk faltered. The new man looked effortlessly put together, calm, sharp-eyed, a quiet strength radiating from him. Beside him, Lina finally managed a real smile for the first time that day. After Derek walked away, Ethan released a small laugh. "You are quite the actress," he said. Lina covered her face, mortified. "Oh my God, I am so sorry. I do not even know you. I just panicked." "Do not apologize," Ethan replied, leaning back with a warm smile. "You played it well. If I ever need a fake girlfriend, I know who to call." She laughed despite herself, tension melting away. She had no idea that the stranger who just saved her pride was Ethan Hale, one of Chicago's youngest self-made millionaires, and that this little act would change both of their lives forever. The rain kept falling outside, soft and steady, while inside, two strangers who should never have met shared a quiet, accidental beginning. The next morning, Lina woke up with the smell of rain still clinging to the air. The city looked gray and heavy outside her apartment window. The memory of yesterday kept replaying in her head, the coffee shop, the panic, the stranger who helped her. She smiled a little, embarrassed but grateful. She had not even thanked him properly. Her phone buzzed with a notification. A message from the cafe's digital receipt system popped up. "Thank you for visiting Hale Coffee." Lina frowned. That name sounded familiar, but she did not think much of it. She brushed her hair, put on her work apron, and hurried down the block to her tiny flower shop. By noon, the sky had cleared. A delivery truck blocked the front door, and she had to squeeze past it carrying a bucket of daisies. She barely noticed the black car parked across the street, the same one Ethan Hale stepped out of, in a crisp suit this time. Inside, Lina was bent over the counter, tying ribbons on bouquets, when a calm male voice said behind her, "You missed a petal." Startled, she turned around, nearly dropping her scissors. "You," her eyes widened. "The man from yesterday." Ethan smiled faintly. "You forgot to thank me, so I thought I would check if you survived the performance." Her cheeks flushed pink. "You did not have to do that, but thank you for saving me from complete humiliation." "You did fine," he said. His tone was steady, his presence quiet but commanding. She noticed how different he looked today, polished, confident, nothing like the man in the cafe who blended into the crowd. "I was in the area," he continued. "I thought I would buy some flowers." She blinked. "For someone special?" He hesitated. "Something like that." His gaze drifted to a pot of white lilies near the window. "Those will do." Lina carefully wrapped the bouquet, pretending not to notice the expensive watch on his wrist or the way people outside glanced at his car. Something about him no longer fit the picture she had in her mind, a quiet stranger reading the newspaper. When she handed him the bouquet, he reached for his wallet, but she shook her head. "Please, it is on the house. Consider it a thank you gift." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "You might be a terrible businesswoman, you know that." She laughed softly. "I get that a lot." He smiled for real then, the kind that reached his eyes. "In that case, maybe I owe you a favor." He slipped a small business card onto the counter before turning to leave. Lina waited until the door closed before picking it up. Her heart skipped. The card was heavy, embossed in silver. Ethan Hale, Chief Executive Officer, Hale Investments. She froze. CEO. Investments. Her mind spun. That calm stranger was a millionaire. She looked out the window, but the black car had already disappeared into traffic. For the rest of the day, she could not focus. Every ribbon she tied came undone. Every order she packed seemed wrong. Her best friend, Maya, dropped by that evening and noticed instantly. "You look like you saw a ghost," she teased. Lina told her everything, the fake boyfriend act, the return visit, the business card. Maya's eyes widened. "Wait, Ethan Hale, as in the Ethan Hale. The tech investor guy who built his company before 30. Lina covered her face. "Do not remind me. I called him babe in public." Maya burst out laughing. "Well, congratulations. You accidentally flirted with a millionaire." "It is not funny," Lina groaned. "He is never coming back. He probably thinks I am insane." But Ethan did come back, 3 days later. It was late afternoon when his car stopped again outside the flower shop. Lina was sweeping the floor, humming softly, when the doorbell chimed. She looked up and froze. "Do you always sweep with your eyes closed?" Ethan asked, smiling. Her heart jumped. "You are back." "I keep my promises," he said, walking in. "You gave me flowers. I came to return the favor." He handed her a single daisy wrapped in brown paper. Attached to it was a handwritten note. "I need a date for a charity event this Saturday. Would you consider pretending one more time?" Lina stared at the note, speechless. "You want me to be your fake date?" He nodded. "Just for one evening. It would help me more than you know." "But why me?" she asked quietly. "You could ask anyone." "Because you are the only person who ever talked to me without wanting something," he said simply. "And you are good at pretending." Lina stood there, unsure whether to laugh or run. The rain had started again outside, tapping softly against the window. Somewhere inside, curiosity stirred stronger than fear. "Saturday," she said finally, 7 o'clock. Ethan's smile widened. "I will pick you up." When he left, the shop felt strangely brighter, as if the light had changed. Lina looked down at the daisy in her hand and whispered to herself, "What on earth am I getting into?" Outside, the city kept moving. unaware that a small act of kindness had just opened the door to something far bigger than either of them could imagine. Saturday evening arrived faster than Lina expected. She spent the whole afternoon packing around her small apartment, trying on the same 2 dresses again and again. Nothing looked right. Nothing felt right. Every time she imagined walking beside Ethan Hale, she could almost hear people whispering, "She does not belong here." Finally, she settled on a soft blue dress she had sewn herself last spring, simple but elegant. Her hands trembled as she fixed the zipper. "It is just one evening," she whispered to the mirror. "Pretend, smile, and survive." At exactly 7 o'clock, a sleek black car stopped in front of her building. Ethan stepped out, wearing a tailored navy suit that caught the glow of the streetlights. He looked almost unreal against the dull concrete walls of her neighborhood. When Lina appeared, his eyes softened. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. She blushed, unsure how to respond. "Thank you. I hope I do not embarrass you." He opened the car door for her. "Trust me, you will not." The ride downtown was silent at first, filled only with the hum of the engine and the sound of rain brushing the windshield. Ethan's driver merged onto the main avenue, where city lights glittered like stars. "So," Lina said finally, breaking the silence, "why exactly do you need a fake date? Are you hiding from an ex too?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Something like that. There are people who think they know me, but they do not. This charity gala tonight is more politics than kindness. Having someone real beside me makes it easier to breathe." "Someone real," she repeated softly. The words lingered in her chest. When they arrived, the hotel entrance looked like something from a movie: crystal chandeliers, red carpet, photographers lining the marble steps. Lina's heart thudded painfully. Ethan offered his arm. "Ready." "Not even close," she whispered, but she took his arm anyway. Inside, the ballroom glowed golden under hundreds of hanging lights. Waiters moved gracefully with trays of champagne. The crowd sparkled with designer gowns and diamond cuffs. Lina felt like she had stepped into another universe. Ethan leaned closer, his voice low. "Do not worry about them. Just smile when you feel lost." She nodded, forcing a smile as they greeted guests. People whispered his name with reverence, shaking his hand, complimenting his company's latest venture. Lina stood by quietly, her fingers clutching her small clutch purse like a lifeline. Then a woman approached, tall, poised, and clearly familiar with Ethan. "Ethan Hale," she said warmly. "You did not tell us you were bringing someone new." Ethan smiled politely. "Lina, this is Victoria Lane, one of our board members." Victoria's gaze swept over Lina from head to toe. "How lovely. And what do you do, dear?" Lina felt her throat tighten. Before she could stumble through an answer, Ethan spoke, his tone calm but firm. "She owns a flower shop, the one that donates bouquets to local hospitals every week." Victoria raised an eyebrow, her smile tight. "How charming." She turned back to Ethan. "The board dinner starts soon. Do join us." Then she walked away. Lina exhaled slowly. "She hates me." Ethan chuckled. "She hates everyone who is not herself." That made Lina laugh, easing her nerves. As the evening went on, she began to relax. Ethan stayed close, guiding her through conversations, making sure she was never left alone. At one point, he offered her champagne, but she shook her head. "If I drink, I might forget my lines." He smiled. "Then stay exactly as you are." Later, during a lull in the music, they stepped out onto the balcony overlooking the city. The wind was cool, carrying the scent of rain and streetlights. Below, Chicago shimmered. "You handled yourself well in there," Ethan said softly. "You did not just survive, you belonged." Lina shook her head. "I was terrified. I am just a florist pretending to fit into a glass world." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Maybe the glass world needs someone like you to remind it what is real." Their eyes met, and for a moment the noise from the ballroom disappeared. Then someone called his name from inside, breaking the spell. As they turned to leave, Lina noticed an older man watching them from across the room, a sharp-eyed figure in a gray suit, whispering something to Victoria. The man's gaze lingered on Lina, cold and assessing. In the car afterward, Lina finally asked, "Who was that man, the one talking to your board member?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "That is Raymond Shaw. He has been trying to buy a controlling share of my company. He will use any weakness he can find. And tonight, that weakness was me." He turned to her, his eyes steady. "Not a weakness, a reason for them to underestimate me." She frowned, confused, but before she could ask more, the driver pulled up to her apartment. The street was quiet except for the sound of rain dripping from the awnings. Ethan got out first, walked her to the door, and paused. "Thank you for tonight, Lina. You were more than I expected." She smiled shyly. "So were you." He handed her a small card again. "I might need another favor soon." She laughed softly. "You have an unusual way of saying goodbye." "Maybe," he said. "Good night, Lina." "Good night, Ethan." As the car drove away, she stood under the porch light, holding the card between her fingers. The ink gleamed faintly under the drizzle. She did not know it yet, but that night's performance had set something in motion, something that neither contracts nor secrets could contain. The following week passed in a blur. Lina went back to her flower shop, arranging roses and lilies while her mind wandered again and again to that gala night. Every detail replayed in her head: the music, the lights, Ethan's quiet confidence, and the way he had looked at her on the balcony as if she were the only real thing in the room. She tried to shake it off. He was a millionaire, a man from a world she could never enter. She was just a florist with overdue rent, but her heart refused to listen to reason. One gray Tuesday afternoon, while Lina was unpacking a delivery of fresh tulips, the doorbell chimed. She looked up, and there he was again. Ethan Hale, dressed down in a dark sweater and jeans, holding 2 cups of coffee. "I figured florists survive on caffeine," he said, offering one to her. Lina laughed in surprise. "You remembered my shop's name and my existence." "Hard to forget the only woman who made Victoria Lane speechless," Ethan replied with a grin. "I hope you are not still mad at me for dragging you into that circus." "I am not mad," she said, taking the cup. "But I am still confused. You could have taken anyone else to that event." He leaned against the counter, his gaze steady. "Maybe I did not want anyone else. You were honest, and you made me laugh." Her cheeks warmed. "Well, that is a first, a millionaire complimenting my sarcasm." Ethan chuckled. "It is not sarcasm if it is true." They talked for a while about small things, flowers that refused to bloom, business deadlines, and how both of them liked the smell of rain more than sunshine. The conversation felt easy, almost too easy. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and frowned slightly. "Trouble?" Lina asked. "Nothing I cannot handle," he said, sliding the phone into his pocket. "But maybe you can help me with something else. My company is hosting a board dinner this weekend. I could use another fake date. One last time." Lina blinked. "Another? Ethan, people will start thinking we are actually dating." He smiled faintly. "Maybe that is not the worst rumor." Her heart skipped, but she forced a laugh. "You are impossible." "Saturday?" he asked, his voice gentle but certain. She hesitated only a moment before nodding. "Saturday." When he left, the air in the shop felt charged, almost humming with something unspoken. Lina stood by the window long after his car disappeared, wondering when pretending had started to feel so real. Saturday came again, bright and cold. This time the event was smaller, a private dinner at an art museum downtown. The invitation alone looked more expensive than Lina's monthly rent. Ethan picked her up right on time, wearing another perfect suit. He greeted her with a genuine smile. "You look stunning again." She tried to joke. "I am starting to think you just need a walking decoration." "Maybe," he said softly, but you make every room lighter. The dinner went smoothly at first. Board members discussed quarterly numbers and mergers that Lina barely understood. She stayed quiet, smiling when needed. But halfway through the evening, she noticed something strange. Two men at the far end of the table kept whispering, glancing her way. One of them was Raymond Shaw, the investor Ethan had mentioned before. After dessert, Raymond stood to give a short speech, raising his glass. To our visionary leader, Ethan Hale, a man who clearly knows how to pick his business partners. His tone dripped with sarcasm. Laughter rippled through the room. Lina felt her stomach twist. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he stayed calm. "Careful, Raymond," he said evenly. "You might sound jealous." Raymond smiled thinly. "Not at all. I just appreciate transparency. I hear your lovely guest is more than meets the eye. Perhaps we should ask her what she really does for you." The room went silent. Lina's breath caught. Ethan stood slowly, his chair scraping against the marble floor. "Enough," he said, his voice cold. "This dinner is about business, not gossip." Raymond's smirk deepened. "Of course. I only meant that a man in your position should choose wisely who represents him, especially when shareholders are watching." Lina's hands trembled under the table. She wanted to disappear. Ethan placed his napkin down and said calmly, "Lina represents herself, and that is enough." Then he turned to her. "We are leaving." Outside, the night air was sharp, the city lights reflecting off wet pavement. Lina could barely breathe. "Ethan, what was that about?" He exhaled slowly. "Raymond will do anything to make me look weak. He wanted to humiliate me through you." Her eyes filled with frustration. "You should not have brought me if it was going to cause trouble." "I did not expect him to attack you," Ethan said quietly. "I am sorry." For a moment, neither spoke. The street was empty except for passing cars and the hum of distant traffic. Then Ethan added, "Lina, I am used to people judging me for my money. But tonight, they reminded me why I needed you there. You remind me what is real." She looked up at him, searching his face. "Ethan." He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Maybe I am tired of pretending." Before she could answer, a camera flash went off from across the street. Someone was taking pictures, fast, continuous, invasive. Ethan turned sharply, shielding her from the light. "Get in the car," he said under his breath. They drove away in silence, headlights cutting through the rain. Lina clutched her purse, her pulse racing. "Ethan, who was that?" He shook his head. "Probably a reporter. Raymond must have sent them." "So now my picture will be everywhere?" she asked, voice shaking. Ethan glanced at her, guilt flickering across his face. "I will fix it, I promise." But deep down, Lina knew some things could not be fixed easily. Pretending had just turned into a headline, and the whole world was about to find out. By Monday morning, the damage was everywhere. Lina's phone buzzed nonstop with messages from unknown numbers. Someone had leaked photos from the dinner, Ethan helping her into the car, his arm around her shoulders, her face caught in the flash of a camera. The headlines screamed across social media. "Ethan Hale's mystery girlfriend, gold digger or hidden heiress." Lina stood behind the counter of her flower shop, staring at the screen in disbelief. Her hands shook as she scrolled. Strangers were commenting on her clothes, her shop, even her past jobs. Someone had taken an old picture from her college days and turned it into a meme. The bell above the door jingled. Her best friend Maya rushed in, holding a newspaper. "Lina, it is worse than online, they printed it." She laid the paper on the counter. The photo showed Ethan and Lina together under the rain, the headline bold. "From florist to fortune, who is Ethan Hale's secret date?" Lina's stomach twisted. "Oh my God." Maya bit her lip. "Do you think Ethan knows?" "He said he would fix it," Lina murmured. "But how can he fix this?" Before she could say more, the door opened again. This time it was Ethan. He looked tired, his suit unbuttoned, his expression tense. The shop fell silent. "I tried to stop the story," he said quietly. "They published before my team could respond." Lina took a step back. So it is true then, Raymond did this. Ethan nodded. He wanted to make you look like a scandal and make me look reckless. It worked for now. For now, she repeated, her voice trembling. Ethan, people are calling me names. They are saying I trapped you. My business is losing customers. No one wants to buy flowers from the gold digger in the newspaper. He looked pained. Lina, I am so sorry. I will make a public statement. I will clear your name. She shook her head, tears rising. A statement from a millionaire will not change what they already believe. He hesitated, then said softly, then let me help you another way. I can transfer ownership of one of my smaller storefronts to you. You could move your shop, start fresh, away from the noise. Her voice broke. Do you even hear yourself? That is not fixing things, Ethan. That is buying them. The words hung heavy between them. Ethan froze, guilt flashing across his face. That is not what I meant. Yes, it is, she said quietly. You do not understand what it is like to have people think you are nothing. You have never had to fight for a single inch of respect. He stepped closer. Lina, I am trying. I know, she whispered, wiping her eyes. But maybe that is the problem. You keep trying to solve everything with money. He opened his mouth to speak, but she turned away. Please, Ethan, just go. He stood still for a moment, then nodded. If that is what you want. His voice was low, almost breaking. He left without another word. Days passed. The news cycle spun on, but the gossip stayed alive. People whispered when Lina walked down the street. The flower shop, once filled with color, now felt dim. Even Maya's encouragement could not stop the emptiness growing inside her. One evening, she locked the shop early and walked aimlessly through the city. The cold air bit her cheeks. Neon lights reflected off puddles on the pavement. She stopped in front of a large office building with the name Hale Investments glowing across the glass. Through the windows, she could see men in suits rushing through the lobby. For a long time, she just stood there, watching. Inside, Ethan sat in his office, staring at the same newspaper headline on his desk. The board had demanded an explanation. Investors threatened to withdraw. Raymond Shaw had already called a press conference hinting that Ethan's personal distractions were endangering the company. Claire, his assistant, stepped in quietly. The reporters are waiting in the lobby. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, he said, standing. It is time someone told the truth. Minutes later, Ethan walked to the podium under the blinding camera lights. The room buzzed with questions. He raised a hand, steady and calm. I will speak first, he said. There has been a lot of speculation about a woman named Lina Carter. I want to be clear. She is not a distraction, not a scandal, and definitely not a gold digger. She is the kindest, most genuine person I have met. The only mistake she made was helping me when I asked her to pretend to be someone she is not. Whispers filled the room. Ethan continued, the truth is I am the one who lied. I asked her to attend events to make my business look stable. She never asked for a cent. If anyone's integrity should be questioned, it is mine, not hers. Across the city, Lina watched the broadcast on an old television in the back of her shop. She pressed her hand to her mouth as Ethan's voice echoed through the screen. He ended his statement with one final line. If being honest costs me my company, so be it. At least the world will know who she really is. Reporters shouted questions as he stepped away from the podium. The video cut off, leaving silence behind. Lina felt her heart twist. He had risked everything for her name. That night she walked outside into the cold. The streets were quiet except for the soft hum of passing cars. She looked up at the city skyline and whispered, "You really meant it, did you?" Somewhere across the skyline, Ethan sat alone in his darkened office, staring out at the same night sky. Both of them wondering if honesty could mend what pride had broken, and if love could survive the storm that fame had unleashed. The next morning, Lina woke up to the sound of her phone vibrating nonstop. At first, she thought it was more gossip, Another storm of messages she did not have the strength to read. But when she finally glanced at the screen, she froze. Every news outlet was talking about the same thing: Ethan Hale's public confession. Headlines now read, CEO defends florist, takes responsibility for scandal. Comment sections were changing tone. Instead of insults, there were words like respect and integrity. Maya burst into the shop minutes later, still in her pajamas, holding her phone. "Lina, you need to see this. People are apologizing. They are calling him the honest millionaire. Someone even started a hashtag for your flower shop." Lina's eyes filled with disbelief. "What?" Maya turned the screen toward her. The video of Ethan's statement had gone viral. Under it were thousands of comments, people praising his honesty, others defending Lina, some even placing orders for flower deliveries to support the brave florist. For the first time in weeks, Lina laughed through her tears. "I cannot believe this." "Believe it," Maya said. "You and Mr. Millionaire just broke the internet in the most romantic way possible." But Lina's smile faded. "He risked everything for me, Maya. The board might fire him. Raymond will not let this go." "Then maybe it is your turn to fight for him," Maya said gently. Those words stayed with her all day. By late afternoon, she had made up her mind. She closed the shop early, grabbed her coat, and headed straight to Hale Investments. Inside the glass building, the atmosphere buzzed with tension. Reporters still lingered outside the lobby. Security guards whispered into their radios as Lina walked in. One recognized her immediately. "Miss Carter, Mr. Hale is in a board meeting." "I will wait," she said, her voice calm but firm. Upstairs, the meeting room was filled with voices, angry, sharp, impatient. Raymond Shaw's tone cut through them all. "Your little stunt may have impressed social media, Ethan, but it embarrassed this company. We cannot afford a leader who confuses business with personal drama." Ethan sat quietly, hands folded on the table. "Integrity is not a stunt, Raymond. It is what keeps this company worth believing in." "You think the market cares about integrity?" Raymond sneered. "You jeopardized millions of dollars for a florist. Admit it, you have lost perspective." Ethan met his eyes steadily. "Perspective is exactly what I found." At that moment, the conference room doors opened. Every head turned. Lina stood there, pale but determined. "Then maybe you should hear the other side," she said. The board members exchanged shocked glances. Raymond's expression hardened. "This is a closed meeting." Ethan stood immediately. "She stays." Lina took a deep breath and stepped forward. "You are all blaming him for telling the truth, but you should know something. He never used me. He treated me with respect when the rest of the world did not. You want a leader who only protects his image, or a man brave enough to admit his mistakes in front of everyone." Her voice trembled, but she did not stop. "Ethan Hale built this company from nothing. Maybe that is why people trust him, because he does not hide behind money or lies. If that makes him unfit to lead, then maybe this company does not deserve him." The room went silent. Even Raymond looked momentarily speechless. Ethan's eyes softened as he watched her. Finally, one of the older board members cleared his throat. "Miss Carter, that was unexpected, but perhaps it is time we remember why this company succeeded in the first place." Others nodded slowly. Within minutes, the mood shifted. The chairman announced they would review the decision, and Raymond's expression darkened in defeat. The meeting adjourned, and the board members filed out one by one, murmuring quietly. When the room emptied, Ethan turned to Lina. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he said softly, "You should not have done that. They could have turned on you." She smiled faintly. "You already risked everything for me. It was my turn." He stepped closer. "Lina, you did not have to." "I wanted to," she said, her voice breaking. "Because for the first time, someone saw me as more than a mistake to fix. You told the world who I was. I could not let you stand alone." Ethan exhaled slowly, emotion flickering in his eyes. "You are incredible." She laughed weakly. You should probably stop saying things like that. It makes pretending very hard. I stopped pretending the night I met you, he said quietly. Before she could reply, he reached out and took her hand. His touch was warm, steady. Come with me, he said. They walked out of the building together, ignoring the flashes of cameras waiting outside. Reporters shouted questions, but neither answered. Ethan simply opened the car door for her, the same way he had that first day. In the car, the city lights streamed past the window. Lina looked out, her reflection blending with the skyline. What happens now? She asked softly. Ethan smiled. Now we stop living like everything is a transaction. We start over. No contracts, no pretending, just life. She turned to him, searching his face. Do you really think the world will let you do that? I do not care about the world, he said. I care about you. For a moment everything was quiet, the hum of the city, the rhythm of their breathing, the faint sound of rain starting again. Lina felt something lift from her chest, a weight she had carried for too long. Outside, Chicago glowed like a promise waiting to be kept. And for the first time, both of them believed that maybe honesty, love, and courage could rebuild everything the storm had tried to take away. The following days felt almost unreal. The media storm slowly calmed as Ethan's honesty began to reshape his image. News anchors called it the most human moment in corporate America. His company's stock, which had dropped sharply after the scandal, started climbing again. But for Ethan, none of that mattered. What mattered was that he could finally breathe, and that Lina was still beside him. He visited her shop every morning, sometimes bringing coffee, sometimes just to help water the plants. The customers who once whispered behind her back now came in to buy flowers and tell her how brave she had been. One afternoon, an elderly woman placed an order for a bouquet and said softly, "You gave a lot of us hope, dear. You reminded us that kindness still matters." Lina smiled shyly. "Thank you, that means more than you know." Later that evening, after closing, Ethan helped her carry boxes of fresh roses inside. The rain outside made the street glow under the streetlights. He rolled up his sleeves, setting a vase on the counter. "You know," he said, "I never thought I would end up in a flower shop. Boardrooms, yes, but this." Lina laughed. "I never thought a millionaire would be cleaning flower buckets either." He looked around the shop with genuine warmth. "It feels peaceful here, real. Maybe I need more of that in my life." "Maybe you just need less chaos," she teased. He leaned on the counter, watching her carefully. "You make chaos look beautiful, Lina." Her hands stilled. The air between them shifted heavier, warmer. "Ethan," she whispered, unsure what to say. Before she could finish, his phone buzzed. He sighed and glanced at it. "It is the board. They want an answer." "About what?" she asked quietly. "They offered me a new contract," he said. "But it comes with a condition. Raymond is gone, but they want me to step down from the public spotlight for a while, move operations overseas, take a quiet role. It is their way of restoring investor confidence." Lina looked at him, her heart sinking. "That means leaving Chicago." "Yes," he said softly, "and leaving you." Silence filled the room. Rain tapped against the windows, steady and relentless. She looked down at the flowers in her hands, then back at him. "So what will you do?" Ethan stepped closer, his voice low. "What do you think I should do?" She shook her head. "I cannot decide that for you. This is your life, your company." He smiled sadly. "It stopped being just mine the day I met you." For a long moment they stood there, surrounded by the quiet scent of lilies and rain. Finally, Lina spoke. "If you leave, I will understand. But if you stay, do it because you want to, not because of me." Ethan's eyes softened. "What if the reason I want to stay is you?" Her heart pounded. She opened her mouth to answer, but he gently took her hand instead. "Lina, I spent years chasing power, thinking that was leadership. You taught me that leadership is just another word for responsibility, to people, to truth, to love." Her throat tightened. "Ethan." He smiled faintly. I have made my choice. The next morning, every business paper carried the headline: Ethan Hale refuses relocation offer, chooses to stay and rebuild at home. Reporters called it reckless, others called it romantic, but for Lina, it simply felt right. That evening, he returned to her shop again, rain-soaked and smiling. I told the board that I am rebuilding my life here, he said, setting a single white rose on the counter. If they want to follow me, good. If not, I will start again. Lina looked at the rose, her voice trembling. You really did that? I did, he said, because some things are worth more than reputation, some things you fight for. She reached across the counter, touching his hand. Then maybe this time we build something together. Outside, the rain finally stopped. The clouds broke just enough for the city lights to shine brighter, reflecting in the shop window, two people standing side by side, no longer pretending. The weeks that followed felt like spring after a long winter. The gossip had faded into the background, and life slowly returned to something close to normal. Ethan kept his word. He rebuilt his company from Chicago, working from a smaller, more transparent office space only a few blocks away from Lina's shop. Every morning he stopped by before work with two coffees, one black, one caramel latte with extra foam. He always handed her the second cup first. Fuel for the best florist in town, he would say with a smile. Lina teased him every time. You keep saying that like you are my #1 customer. He grinned, maybe I am. The new rhythm of their lives was simple but full. She focused on growing her business again, hiring new staff and donating bouquets to hospitals and shelters. Ethan, meanwhile, made headlines not for his wealth, but for his community projects, funding small local shops, sponsoring scholarships, and investing in urban gardens across the city. When a journalist asked him why he changed his focus, he smiled and said, because sometimes success is measured in people, not numbers. One evening after closing the shop, Lina walked through the park near the river. The sky was streaked with pink and gold. She found Ethan waiting by the fountain, his hands in his coat pockets. I thought you were still at the office, she said, surprised. I left early, he replied. I wanted to show you something. He led her across the street to a small storefront still under renovation. Through the glass, she could see rows of unfinished shelves, a counter, and a sign half covered by a tarp. Ethan pulled it down, revealing the name, Hale and Bloom. Lina's mouth fell open. What is this? He smiled. Our new project, a charity foundation that combines what we both love, beauty and purpose. You design the floral arrangements for community events, and the profits will fund education programs for young entrepreneurs. Her eyes widened. Ethan, this is huge. Why me? He looked at her gently. Because you remind me that change starts small. One flower, one act of kindness, one honest choice. For a moment she could not speak. The sunset reflected in the glass behind them, painting the words Hale and Bloom in soft gold. She turned toward him, her voice barely a whisper. You really believe in this, do you? I believe in you, he said simply. The words hung in the air between them, steady, real, and full of something deeper than either of them had dared to name. Lina stepped closer, her heart pounding. Ethan, when I met you, I only needed 5 minutes of pretending. I never expected this. He smiled faintly. Neither did I, but I am done pretending. For a long moment, neither moved. The sound of the river filled the quiet between them. Then Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver key. Consider this a partnership gift, he said, placing it in her hand. Half business, half heart. Lina looked at the key resting in her palm. You really trust me with this? With everything, he said. She blinked back tears, smiling. Then I guess I am officially out of excuses. He laughed softly. Good, because tomorrow we start painting the walls. They stood there as the last light of day faded, the city glowing behind them. For the first time in months, the future did not look uncertain, it looked wide open. When they finally walked away, hand in hand, the reflection of their silhouettes shimmered in the shop window under the glowing sign. Hale and Bloom. It was more than a business name now. It was a promise, a reminder that love, like flowers, could bloom again even after the hardest storm. A few months later, the grand opening of Hale and Bloom finally arrived. The small street outside the shop was filled with laughter, music, and the fragrance of hundreds of flowers. Banners fluttered in the spring breeze, and local reporters stood by with cameras ready. Lina stood near the entrance, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted a ribbon on the archway. "I still cannot believe this is real," she whispered. Ethan smiled beside her, dressed simply in a white shirt and dark vest. "Believe it, you built this." "We built this," she corrected, her voice soft but steady. The mayor gave a short speech, praising their work in supporting small businesses and local charities. Then he handed the scissors to Lina and Ethan. Together, they cut the ribbon as the crowd applauded. The sign above them glowed in the sunlight, Hale and Bloom Foundation. Inside, walls were lined with fresh arrangements, roses, lilies, and wildflowers from local farms. Each bouquet carried a small tag that read, "Made with purpose, shared with love." Children ran between the tables, laughing, while volunteers handed out free blooms to elderly neighbors. It was everything Lina had ever dreamed of, a place where kindness and beauty lived side by side. As the event quieted, Ethan led her to a corner where a new display waited under a white cloth. "Before everyone leaves," he said, "there is one more thing to show." He pulled the cloth away, revealing a framed photograph of a rainy afternoon in a coffee shop, the day they first met. Beneath it, a brass plate read, "5 minutes that changed everything." Lina gasped, her eyes shining. "You kept this?" "I keep everything that matters," he said softly. Before she could reply, he knelt down, reaching into his pocket. The crowd hushed as he held up a small velvet box. Inside was a ring shaped like a blooming rose, delicate and golden. "Lina Carter," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "you turned my life upside down in the best possible way. You showed me that love is not a contract, it is a choice. So I am choosing you for real, for always. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Ethan, 1,000 times yes." The crowd erupted in applause as he slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms. For a moment, the world disappeared, the noise, the cameras, the past. All that remained was the quiet heartbeat of two people who had stopped pretending and started believing. Later that night, when the guests had gone and the lights dimmed, Lina stood beside him under the glowing sign. The air smelled of fresh petals and new beginnings. "5 minutes," she said softly. "That was all it took." Ethan smiled, wrapping his arm around her. 5 minutes to find forever. And with that, under the soft glow of Hale and Bloom, their story finally came full circle, proof that even a single act of kindness can lead to a lifetime of love.